Hello everyone, Procrastinating Turtle here. For today's Pokedex deep dive, I wanted to cover something slightly different. Pokedex entries that hint at different regions to varying degrees. Regions that we have yet to see. Soon I will post a video of the Pokemon that have been proven to be from a different region than they were introduced in. If I've already posted that video, you can find the link for it down in the description as well as the end of the video. For now, this video will cover the first 5 Pokemon where the Pokedex entries hint at other regions. If there is enough information, I will share my thoughts on where I believe they may be from in relation to our world, where a future Pokemon region may be based on. The first Pokemon is an appropriate start to this list, as it is a starter Pokemon. Well, at least it is in a starter Pokemon evolutionary line. With a national Pokedex of 5, Charmeleon. This Pokemon's Diamond and Pearl Pokedex entry states, quote, "In the Rocky Mountains where Charmeleon live, their fiery tails shine at night like stars," end quote. At first read, I thought perhaps this was referring to the Rocky Mountains of North America's west, perhaps the region south of Loxodon and Noggin's Cascade region. On second read though, perhaps not, as Rocky Mountains is not capitalized. If we look into Charmander's Pokedex entries, it says that Charmander prefers hot places. So I began looking to see if there were any hot mountains. Just west of the Rocky Mountains southern portion in California is a place called Death Valley, which has been recorded to reach over 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius. In Death Valley National Park, there are 2 mountain ranges, the Amargosa region and the Panamint region. Another hot mountain is located in China called the Flaming Mountains. These mountains are composed of red clay and appear to be burning. These mountains have seen temperatures of upwards of 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 degrees Celsius. What about the part of the Pokedex entry where it talks about their tails shining at night like stars? There is a mountain in North America where lights are seen at night. Brown Mountain in North Carolina, which is south of New York, where Unova is based on. These lights have been reported to range in color from white to red to yellow to orange to blue, all of which can be seen as tail flame colors in this Pokemon's evolutionary line. So perhaps the Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard line is from North America or China. The next Pokemon on this list has a national Pokedex number of 24, Arbuck. This Pokemon is a little different in that there's not really a specific region that this Pokemon can be guessed to be from. In Pokemon Red and Blue, we learned that the pattern on its belly is different based on the area it is from. Then in Pokemon Yellow, we found out that 6 variations had been confirmed at that time, which we can see across the future games. However, later Arbuck's Ultra Sun Pokedex entry states, quote, "The latest research has determined that there are over 20 possible arrangements of the pattern on its stomach," end quote. Could this mean that there could be more than a dozen unvisited Pokemon regions already planned? Unfortunately, it is unknown as of writing if Arbuck will be in the latest games, Scarlet and Violet, coming out in less than 2 months. The next Pokemon on this list has a national Pokedex number of 27, Sandshrew. Our first hint on where this Pokemon comes from is in its Red and Blue Pokedex entry. We find out that Sandshrew, quote, "burrows deep underground in arid locations far from water," end quote. This is further expanded on by its Crystal Pokedex entry, which states that, quote, "it prefers dry, sandy places because it uses the sand to protect itself when threatened," end quote. Both of these entries together suggest Sandshrew live in a desert environment. This is later confirmed in Pokemon Ruby. Quote, "Sandshrew's body is configured to absorb water without waste, enabling it to survive in an arid desert," end quote. There are quite a few deserts around the world, some are even quite cold. We are not given enough information up to that point to narrow down where Sandshrew could be from. Black and White then at least tried to give us a hint by saying, quote, "it lives in arid regions with minimum rainfall," end quote. But deserts by definition have low averages of rainfall every year. It isn't until Pokemon Moon that we get a more specific hint. Quote, "it usually makes its home in deserts and arid zones, where rain does not fall," end quote. Perhaps Sandshrew is from South America, more specifically Chile. In Chile is the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places which gets an average less than 1 inch of rainfall a year. And sometimes areas can go several years without seeing any rainfall at all. One could even argue Sandshrew's Ultra Moon Pokedex entry gives some evidence of this as well. This Pokedex entry states, quote, "When its skin gets wrinkled from moisture, it heads for a volcano. It lies flat on a spot with a lot of geothermal heat and dries itself out," end quote. The Atacama Desert does have volcanoes. It has 3 with at least 1 that is active. Another one of the volcanoes found in the Atacama Desert that is not active is topped with snow, which could explain Alola and Sandshrews Ultra Sun Pokedex entry. Quote, "After fleeing a volcanic eruption, it ended up moving to an area of snowy mountains," end quote. The 4th Pokemon on this list has a national Pokedex number of 39, Jigglypuff. This Pokemon is similar to Arbuck. Many of Jigglypuff's Pokedex entries speak of Jigglypuff singing and putting the other Pokemon or even a human to sleep. Also, none of its Pokedex entries as of writing the script for this video suggest Jigglypuff originated from a region other than Kanto. Who knows, maybe a Pokedex entry from Scarlet or Violet will change that, as we have seen that Jigglypuff is in the game, and it appears that they have a regional variant, or rather a paradox form. However, for now, the reason for Jigglypuff to be on this list is its Ultra Moon Pokedex entry. Quote, "The songs they sing are totally different depending on the region they live in. Some even sound like they're shouting," end quote. That must cause quite a fright if someone is traveling in the Pokemon world and not used to this shouting variety. Finally, the last Pokemon on this list today, but certainly not the last Pokemon of this topic, has a national Pokedex number of 45, Bile Plume. For this Pokemon, we only get a slight hint that they are likely not from Kanto in Generation 3. In Bile Plume's Ruby Pokedex entry, we learn, quote, "Bile Plume's toxic pollen triggers atrocious allergy attacks. That's why it's advisable never to approach any attractive flowers in a jungle, however pretty they may be," end quote. Unfortunately, we don't get any more information than this. If Bile Plume is in Scarlet or Violet, perhaps we will be able to learn more. But for now, Bile Plume could be from an area based on Southern Asia, Central Africa, South or even Central America. What do you think? Is there anything you agree or disagree with in this video? Where do you think any of these Pokemon might be from? If you like these videos and want to know when the next one in this series is released, click the like and subscribe button below.